Drainage Basins of the World. Written by Edward Allen Kurtz.
Contents at a glance.
What is a basin? A basin can mean more than one thing. It is another word for a sink, where you wash your hands. It is a bowl, but what happens to the water from the faucet? It goes to the bottom, where there is a hole, and the water drains out of the basin. In this book, we will learn about natural basins around the world. These drainage basins are areas of land where water from rain, melting ice, or melting snow move down from higher elevations and come together in one place at a lower elevation. Let's learn more about basins. Natural drainage basins. When the water from rain, melting ice, or melting snow meets in a drainage basin, the water is called surface water. Just like the drain in a sink, there is a place in a drainage basin where the surface water can exit. This water usually goes into another body of water, like a lake, an ocean, a river, or a sea. A small stream can join a small river. This small river then joins a larger river, and eventually the larger river will empty into a sea or ocean. These streams and rivers and the land around them form a drainage basin. Other names for drainage basins. There are many names that people use for drainage basins. Some of these names include basin, catchment, catchment area, catchment basin, drainage area, river basin, water basin, and watershed. Catchment has the word catch in it, and that is exactly what it means, catching or collecting water. But all these words mean the same thing, an area where water collects. A drainage basin includes the streams and rivers as well as the land, and the drainage basin acts like a funnel to make all of the water go to one place. Drainage divide. A drainage divide is a line that separates one drainage basin from the next. Where there are hills and mountains, it is easy to figure out the drainage divide. But where the land is flat, like where there is a swamp, it is not easy to tell where the line is. Have you ever heard of the continental divide? The Rocky Mountain Range is a good example of a continental divide. It means that water on the west side of the mountain range flows towards the Pacific Ocean, and water on the east side flows towards the Atlantic Ocean. Types of drainage divides. There are 3 types of drainage divides. A continental divide, like the Rocky Mountains, is the easiest one to understand. The waters on each side of the divide flow into 2 different oceans. The second type is a major drainage divide. The waters on each side of the divide don't meet, but they flow into the same ocean, like the Yellow River and the Yangtze River in China. Waters in a minor drainage divide go in different directions at first. Later on, they join together to form a river, like the Mississippi and Missouri divides. The importance of drainage basins. Why are drainage basins important? If it rains a lot and a stream gets too full, there can be flooding. So it's important that drainage basins work well. The water from the stream can flow into a river, and the river then flows into an ocean or a sea. Another reason why drainage basins are important is because they carry things with them. Some of these things are good, like nutrients, but other things are not good, like pollution. When these pollutants travel along the drainage basin, they can cause harm to plants and animals. A basin with no exit? There is a special kind of drainage basin called an endorheic basin. Endorheic comes from the ancient Greek language, and it means within and to flow. So what does that mean? It means that it is a closed drainage basin. There is no drain. When it rains or snows, the water collects in an endorheic basin, but it does not flow out of the basin. So where does the water go? Up into the air. The water evaporates or sometimes seeps down to the ground. Some of the largest lakes in the world are endorheic bodies of water. The biggest endorheic basin in the world. The Caspian Sea is the biggest endorheic basin in the world. It is also the largest enclosed body of water on Earth and the biggest saline inland sea in the world. It is located between Europe and Asia. It is bordered by Azerbaijan, Iran, Kazakhstan, Russia, and Turkmenistan. The level of water in the Caspian Sea changes depending on how much water flows into it from several rivers, like the Volga River and the Ural River, but it has no outflow or exit, so evaporation is the only way for water to leave the Caspian Sea. The biggest basins in the world. The Caspian Sea might be the biggest endorheic basin in the world, but it is not the biggest drainage basin in the world. Oceans are a part of the world's drainage system, so the oceans of the world are the biggest drainage basins on Earth. Nearly 50% of the Earth's land drains into the Atlantic Ocean. This includes the continents of Africa, Europe, and North and South America. The Pacific Ocean might be the biggest ocean in the world, but only about 13% of the land on Earth drains into the Pacific Ocean. Amazing! The 5 biggest river basins in the world. 2 of the biggest river basins in the world are found in South America, 2 in Africa, and 1 in North America. Can you guess what they are? The biggest river basin in the world is the Amazon River, which flows through several countries, but mostly through Brazil. This is followed by the Rio de la Plata, a river between Argentina and Uruguay. The 3rd largest river basin is the Congo River, followed by the Nile River, both in Africa. And the 5th biggest river basin is the Mississippi River in North America. Famous drainage basins. The Amazon. There are several rivers that form the Amazon drainage basin, but the Amazon River is the biggest river in this basin. Not only that, it is the biggest river in the world. It's not the longest river in the world, but it is the largest because of how much water runs through it. In fact, there is more water running through the Amazon River than through the next 7 biggest rivers combined. The Amazon basin is so big that it takes up 40% of South America, and it is also the home of the world's biggest tropical rainforest. Famous drainage basins. The Nile. The Nile Basin includes the longest river in the world, the Nile River, which is made up of 2 rivers, the White Nile and the Blue Nile. These 2 rivers meet to form the Nile River. It runs through 10 countries on its way north to empty into the Mediterranean Sea. The Nile Basin covers about 10% of the continent of Africa. About 160 million people live in the Nile Basin, and they depend on the water. The Nile Basin has been important for thousands of years, including the period of the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. Famous drainage basins. The Mississippi. The Mississippi Drainage Basin is the biggest drainage system in North America. It includes the Mississippi River, the Missouri River, and other small rivers. The Mississippi Drainage Basin includes 31 of the states of the United States, as well as 2 provinces of Canada. It covers an area of over 1 million square miles. This is about 40% of the 48 continental states. The Mississippi Basin stretches from the Rocky Mountains in the west to the Allegheny Mountains in the east and empties into the Gulf of Mexico. Interesting facts. Drainage basins can empty into bodies of water other than oceans. These include estuaries, lakes, reservoirs, rivers, seas, and wetlands. Some rivers have their own drainage basins before they join other rivers. For example, the Missouri River has its own drainage basin before it meets the Mississippi River, and this means that it is a part of more than one drainage basin. If an endorheic basin contains salt water and all the water evaporates, then the area is called a salt flat. Drainage divides can be formed by mountains, hills, and ridges. The 5 ocean basins in order of the amount of land that drains into them are the Atlantic, the Arctic, the Pacific, the Indian, and the Southern Ocean, also known as the Antarctic Ocean. The Gulf of Mexico plus the Caribbean Sea are considered a drainage basin as well as the Mediterranean Sea. Because the Andes Mountains are located so close to the western border of the continent of South America, a large part of the waters of this continent flow eastward into the Atlantic Ocean. Sometimes drainage basins are used to figure out the borders between two countries. Scientists are interested in studying drainage basins because they are an important part of the water cycle that starts with rain or snow, travels through drainage basins, empties into large bodies of water like the oceans where evaporation occurs and clouds form, and then the cycle begins again. A delta is formed at the mouth of a river where it empties into an ocean because the river has carried a lot of sediment, and this sediment builds up until it forms land.